On the feast of St. Joseph, a bitter day in March, 4 months after the knee trembler, Malachy married Angela, and in August, the child was born. In November, Malachy got drunk and decided it was time to register the child's birth. He thought he might name the child Malachy after himself, but his North of Ireland accent and the alcoholic mumble confused the clerk so much he simply entered the name Mel on the certificate. Not until late December did they take Mel to St. Paul's Church to be baptized and named Francis after his father's father, and the lovely St. Francis of Assisi. Angela wanted to give him a middle name, Munchin, after the patron saint of Limerick, but Malachy said over his dead body, no son of him would have a Limerick name. It's hard enough going through life with one name. Sticking on middle names was an atrocious American habit, and there was no need for a second name when you're christened after the man from Assisi. There was a delay the day of the baptism when the chosen godfather, John McErlean, got drunk at the speakeasy and forgot his responsibilities. Philomena told her husband Tommy he'd have to be godfather. Child's soul is in danger, she said. Tommy put his head down and grumbled. All right, I'll be godfather, but I'm not going to be responsible if he grows up like his father, causing trouble and going through life with the odd manner. For if he does, he can go to John McErlean at the speakeasy. The priest said, true for you, Tom. Decent man that you are. Fine man that never set foot inside a speakeasy. Malachy, fresh from the speakeasy himself, felt insulted and wanted to argue with the priest. One sacrilege on top of another. Take off that collar and we'll see who's the man. He had to be held back by the great-breasted ones and their husbands grim. So Malachy has decided to pick a fight with the priest. Angela, new mother, agitated, forgot she was holding the child and let him slip into the baptismal font, a total immersion of the Protestant type. The altar boy, assisting the priest, plucked the infant from the font and restored him to Angela, who sobbed and clutched him, dripping to her bosom. The priest laughed, said he'd never seen the likes, that the child was a regular little Baptist now, and hardly needed a priest. This maddened Malachy again, and he wanted to jump at the priest for calling the child some class of a Protestant. The priest said, quiet man, you're in God's house. And when Malachy said, God's house, my arse, he was thrown out on Court Street because you can't say arse in God's house. After baptism, Philomena said she had tea and ham and cakes in her house around the corner. Malachy said, tea? And she said, yes, tea, or is it whiskey you want? He said tea was grand, but first he'd have to go and deal with John McErlean, who didn't have the decency to carry out his duties as godfather. Angela said, you're only looking for an excuse to run to the speakeasy. He said, as God is my witness, the drink is the last thing on my mind. Angela started to cry. Your son's christening day, and you have to go drinking. Delia told him he was a disgusting specimen, but what could you expect from the north of Ireland? Malachy looked from one to the other, shifted on his feet, pulled his cap down over his eyes, shoved his hands deep in his trouser pockets, said, "Och, aye," the way they do in the far reaches of County Antrim, turned, hurried up Court Street to the speakeasy on Atlantic Avenue, where he was sure they'd ply him with free drink in honour of his son's baptism. At Philomena's house, the sisters and their husbands ate and drank, while Angela sat in a corner, nursing the baby and crying. Philomena stuffed her mouth with bread and ham and rumbled at Angela. "That's what you get for being such a fool. Hardly off the boat and you fall for that lunatic. You should have stayed single, put the child up for adoption, and you'd be a free woman today." "Who forced her to get married?" "Yeah." Angela cried harder, and Delia took up the attack. "Oh, stop it, Angela, stop it. You have nobody to blame but yourself for getting into trouble with a drunkard from the north, a man that doesn't even look like a Catholic, him with his odd manner. I'd say that Malachy has a streak of the Presbyterian in him right enough. You shut up, Jimmy." "If I was you," said Philomena, "I'd make sure there's no more children. He don't have a job, so he don't, and never will the way he drinks. So, no more children, Angela. Are you listening to me?" "I am, Philomena." A year later, another child was born. Angela called him Malachy after his father and gave him a middle name, Gerard, after his father's brother. The McNamara sisters said Angela was nothing but a rabbit and they wanted nothing to do with her till she came to her senses. Their husbands agreed. I'm in a playground on Classen Avenue in Brooklyn with my brother Malachi. He's 2, I'm 3. We're on a seesaw. Up, down, Malachi goes up, I get off. Malachi goes down. Seesaw hits the ground. He screams. His hand is on his mouth. And there's blood. Oh God, blood is bad. My mother will kill me. And here she is trying to run across the playground, but her big belly slows her. Yeah, she's pregnant again. She says, "What did you do? What did you do to the child?" I don't know what to say. I don't know what I did. She pulls my ear. "Go home, go to bed." "Dad, in the middle of the day?" She pushes me toward the playground gate. "Go!" She picks up Malachi and waddles off. My father's friend, Mr. McAdory, is outside our building. He's standing at the edge of the sidewalk with his wife Minnie looking at a dog lying in the gutter. There's blood all around the dog's head. It's the colour of the blood from Malachi's mouth. Malachi has dog blood and the dog has Malachi blood. I pull Mr. McAdory's hand. I tell him Malachi has blood like the dog. "Ah, he does indeed, Francis. Cats have it too. And Eskimos. All the same blood." Minnie says, "Stop that, Dan. Stop confusing the wee fellow." She tells me the poor wee dog was hit by a car and he crawled all the way from the middle of the street before he died. Wanted to come home, the poor wee creature. Mr. McAdory says, "You better go home, Francis. I don't know what you did to your wee brother, but your mother took him off to the hospital. Go home, child." "Will Malachi die like the dog, Mr. McAdory?" Minnie says, "He bit his tongue. He won't die." "Why did the dog die?" "It was his time, Francis." The apartment is empty and I wander between the 2 rooms, the bedroom and the kitchen. My father is out looking for a job and my mother is at the hospital with Malachi. I wish I had something to eat, but there's nothing in the ice box but cabbage leaves floating in the melted ice. They used to have big trucks that would come along and give you a big block of ice that you would put inside of an ice box, and it would keep things cool. And when the ice melted, of course, there was just water left over, full of bacteria. My father said, "Never eat anything floating in water for the rot that might be in it." I fall asleep on my parents' bed, and when my mother shakes me, it's nearly dark. "Your little brother's going to sleep a while. Nearly bit his tongue off. Stitches galore. Go in the other room." My father is in the kitchen, sipping black tea from his big white enamel mug. He lifts me to his lap. "Da, will you tell me the story about Cuckoo?" Cuchulainn. Say it after me. Cuchulainn. I'll tell you the story when you say the name right. Cuchulainn. I say it right, and he tells me the story of Cuchulainn, who had a different name when he was a boy, Setanta. He grew up in Ireland, where Dad lived when he was a boy in County Antrim. Setanta had a stick and a ball, and one day he hit the ball, and it went into the mouth of a big dog that belonged to Cuchulainn and choked him. Oh, Cuchulainn was angry, and he said, "What am I to do now with my big dog to guard my house and my wife and my 10 small children, as well as numerous pigs, hens and sheep?" Setanta said, "I'm sorry. I'll guard your house with my stick and ball, and I'll change my name to Cuchulainn, the Hound of Cuchulainn." And he did. He guarded the house and regions beyond and became a great hero, and the Hound of Ulster itself. Da said he was a great hero than Hercules and Achilles that the Greeks were always bragging about. And he would take on King Arthur and his knights in a fair fight, which of course he would never get with an Englishman anyway. That's my story. Da can't tell that story to Malachi or any other children down the hall. He finishes the story and lets me sip his tea. It's bitter, but I'm happy there on his lap.